Hey everybody, welcome to LRTech. Name possibly not final. I don't know, I couldn't think of anything better. I wanted to keep it something short so it would be, easy to say and do. But I don't know. I feel like there's something a little bit catchier than LRTech, something that's a little bit less descriptive, but I couldn't think of anything offhand. So, LRTech it is. Itazu, thank you for subscribing. And Lord Deox, thank you for subscribing. All you people, thank you for subscribing. Also, thank you, thank you all the people complimenting the logo, which is in fact something I just did a couple of minutes ago. It's not actually like a logo, it's just a font with the word LRTech in it. It's nothing terribly spectacular. Theoretically, we might actually get a real logo for it at some point. But first, I must thank Tap Tap Unleash and Dwarf Mage 328. Thank you very much, both of you, for subscribing. All right, so today, so this is something that we're going to experiment with. Legion of Lashes, also thank you for subscribing. And Mirnus, thank you for subscribing. You see, most people, when they're doing, trying to explain a topic, don't have to deal with generic evil genius, thank you for subscribing. They don't have to deal with constantly thanking people for subscribing, which we very much appreciate, but does kind of ruin the flow a little bit. Anyway, okay, so a lot of people were asking about the card recognition system that we had set up for the last Loading Ready Live stream, and to a lesser extent, what we've been using on the podcasts, on the Tap Tap Concede for the, what do you call it, the Crack Pack. And so I wanted to demonstrate not only what we're doing, or hopefully at least give you an idea of what we're doing, but I thought it would be fun to show you kind of the process that I went through in order to work out what to do, because the particular use case that we have is a little unusual, probably. So I thought that if as well as showing you exactly what we're doing, if I show you kind of how I came about doing it this way, then maybe that will be useful to people for doing something that may not be exactly how we're setting it up. And the other aspect of this, the reason why I want to do this is because I am in favor of better MtG streams. Obviously we've spent a lot of work to make our live Magic stuff as good as possible, and it would, we would love to see other Magic streams doing other cool, innovative things. As it's no secret that sometimes even the official Wizards of the Coast Magic coverage is not the best. There's issues. And there's totally reasonable reasons for that. They have a lot of things going on. They've got they've got limited base and stuff. But it would be nice if they could have some of this tech. So I figured I might as well tell you about it, or make it public. It's not like it's proprietary. Well, I guess that is sort of proprietary, but it's not going to be anymore. So here we go. So the first thing, where this whole started is the Commander game that we had, the live Commander game that we had a little while ago, where we had 4-player Commander, and it was a lot of fun. We had James and Cam and Graham and Alex were all playing Commander, and it was a lot of fun, 4-player Commander game. But one of the things that was brought up as not necessarily a criticism because we didn't really know what was possible, but something that people brought up was like, oh, it'd be awesome if you could throw up the cards as people played it. And I was like, yeah, that would be awesome. But I was having enough trouble keeping track of everything when, just dealing with everyone's life totals and all that kind of stuff. Keeping track of what was going on in the game. The idea of also having to throw up different cards as people were playing them. I was just like, there's no way I can do that. And so I was briefly thinking about like, okay, so what if we had like another person there who was throwing up the cards? So we're now running on two people on the back part. But then around that time, James showed me this app for phone called, let me just get the name here, MtG Augmented Reader. I will throw it up on the screen, and because it is filming the green screen, it will go invisible. Woo! So MtG Augmented Reader is an app. It's a augmented reality app that recognizes cards. So I'm going to put this up here. Let's see if this works. Show you there. And then I'm going to take this sonic seizure. And if I go boop, see, it just recognized sonic seizure. I don't know how visible that is. So anyway, this is an augmented reality app that you can scan cards with, which is pretty cool. It's for iPhone. And I was like, okay, so the technology for recognizing cards quickly and efficiently is available on iOS anyway. And if it's available on iOS, surely we can do it on computer. And turned out to be not as easy as I thought. There aren't actually there's a ton of apps for Android and iOS, but not that many apps for Windows or Mac. And so I did some digging around, and there's various ways to do it. And of course, there's making your own system. There's open source stuff. The big one is called OpenCR, is a recognition software, and people have sort of hacked together various things with, especially doing like OCR on like the title of a card, and then trying to match that against the database and stuff. And so the one piece of software that I did find is something called Decked Builder, and it has a functionality called Card Cam in it. And I was really impressed with this because the recognition in it is very fast, which is basically like that's like the big sticking point on this stuff, right? Is that the recognition has to be basically as fast as possible, because if the recognition, like if you throw a card up and then it takes 30 seconds for it to actually show up, for it to actually recognize it, then it defeats the entire purpose of this stuff. So let's see. Okay, so just so you know, like I said, this is sort of an experimental thing, doing this tutorial stuff or this, and so I have doing this through screen capture. So I'm going to switch over to that now. Okay, so here's the Card Cam app, which is within the Decked Builder system. You can see I have a secondary camera here because, of course, the camera that you're seeing, this camera is me, and only one device can use the camera once. So XSplit is using this camera, so I had to plug in another camera for this to work. But normally you could have it like on your webcam. And so how this works is I can, show I can show stuff to it. And it goes boop and appears. And it's real fast, which is nice. Now, the recognition system in Card Cam is real good. And I was very impressed with it. Unfortunately, I can't wholeheartedly recommend Card Cam, and the people who made CardCam obviously did a wonderful job of it. There are, shall we say, slightly minimal as a program. Like, for instance, this window here where that's doing the recognition, I can't do anything to that. I can't move the square that's recognizing around at all, which is kind of lame. Which seems like something that would be an obvious thing. I can't enlarge it or reduce it. You can change the recognition threshold around here. So, if it's starting to pick up false positives, you can increase the threshold, that kind of stuff. So the other aspect to this is something that we've talked about, is that part of the reason why this system is so fast. And notice, do you see that? Like, check this out. Also, okay, here we go. Sideways on an angle. Oh, can it do it? Can it do it? It's pretty far back. There we go. Like, it's very good recognition. It'll pick it up even, even parts of, it'll pick it up if it's upside down. It will pick it up. Let's see if I can. So, but part of the reason why it works so well is because it limits the number of sets that it can recognize. So unfortunately, that's one of the big downsides of this app. It can only do 4 sets. And now this is something that I've talked to, and I've talked to the actual developers about it a little bit. I just sent them an email and asked them about whether that's something that could be changed. And they were like, and apparently that's sort of a fundamental aspect of the recognition software, is that as you add more sets, the database that it's got to search through gets larger, and it can't. The time that it takes to search becomes too large, and it becomes useless as software. So obviously for CrackPack, great. We can just go down, find whatever set we're cracking, no problem. For for the pre-release we did, I can go, I want Battle for Zendikar, and it just loads up that database. I want Oath of the Gatewatch, loads up that database. Bang, no problem. The problem you run into, though, is if we wanted to, say, do like a Highlander game or a Legacy game, or even a standard game is a little iffy, right? You often have more than 4 sets in standard, or you can have more than 4 sets in standard, depending on what the circumstances are. So one of the things that I proposed to the developers, this is something that I don't know whether it'll ever happen or not, but this program is called Deck Builder, and the CardCam functionality in it is supposed to be for registering your collection. Either if you're like a person who's selling cards, or if you just want to be like, this is my deck, brunk, 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 brunk. And so something I proposed to the developers was that, like, if you could build a deck, you build a deck in the actual like collection, deck building part of the software, and then you could like somehow export that deck, export that list of cards as like a set list. And so if it could do that, then you could, if somebody if we wanted to do like a Highlander game or a Legacy game or something, as long as we knew people's deck list beforehand, we could make that into a set and then send it. So that's something that I think will be a solution to the problem, without because the problem being that there's to try to reduce the search parameters for how many cards it could do. So there's all sorts of ways that you can think of to do it. Yeah, checking the symbol. Although for some of them, especially like the I can imagine like the uncommon and the rare symbols and stuff, like they're pretty. I don't know. This is not an autofocus right now, but the uncommon and the rare symbols are not really very well defined, and they're quite small. this also goes by the picture in case it's not obvious. Which is the other cool thing about it going by the picture is that it picks up, alternate language cards and stuff. It'll show the real one. So anyway, and there's also been, actually I was reading when I was doing research on this, I was reading some people being mad about trying to do recognition of the set, and they're saying that they had to actually hard code the placement of where the set symbol is for every set, because Wizards has moved it around over the years. So anyway, that's really cool. And what's good about it is that I think I've talked about this before. Is that I'm kind of I'm obviously a computer-y type guy, but contrary to my Commodore Hustle type character, I'm not like a super hardcore coder. I do a lot of scripting, I do web programming, I do JavaScript and all that kind of stuff. But programming my own OCR system was a little beyond my capabilities, and so it's cool that there's software here to do that. So this is where we start. Now we've got software that can read cards. So the question becomes, so we've got software that reads cards. The question becomes how to get that card into XSplit, right? And so there's a bunch of ways you can do that. There's different, obviously the best solution, or the not the best solution, but the simplest solution is do a screen cap of this chunk, right, of the image that it's pulling from its own database, and that's a reasonable solution to that. But I don't know. There's something about I always feel like doing a screen cap of something, when you're doing stuff, especially within XSplit or with streaming and stuff, it feels kind of like a failure in my mind, because it's like, and it's also really finicky because you have to sort of reset it for every time you want to use it because the window might have moved a little bit, or it might not pick up that it's like called the same thing as it was before, or something could move in front of that window and then it will stop working and stuff like that. So I try to avoid doing screen caps. That's something that if you look at like the very first Loading Ready Live streams, like the chat, if we go back to the booth here, the chat over on the side there used to be a screen cap of the chat, the chat window from Twitch. Now it's actually embedded directly into XSplit, and so we don't have to worry about where that chat window is placed. It will always appear in the right place in XSplit because it's not connected to an actual screen capture area or whatever. So the person can set up their desktop whatever is best for them. They don't have to worry about having things in a specific situation. So what I wanted to do was figure out a way to get Deck Builder to tell XSplit what the card that it just found was. And so what I thought about is what information is being sent. And so this is actually kind of a cool thing. This is not just for this particular program, but for anything that if you're looking to integrate two programs together that don't talk to each other, they don't have an API or don't have a setup, then what you can do is figure out what kind of information is being sent back and forth. So in this case, when it finds a card, when it finds a card, obviously it's loading up the image here, but the important thing is, you see right here, it's trying to get, it gets the price of the card from a whole bunch of different sources. You can tell it where to get the source. And so what I figured out I could do is I can intercept that signal, the request for a price of that card, and I can take that information and use it for my own ends. So this is starting to get, so this will get a little bit technical for those of you who aren't don't know that much about web stuff, but so there's a program that you should check out called Charles, which is a really neat program. I just have the demo of it right here because I'm just demonstrating it. And so what you can do is, what Charles does is it monitors all the web traffic that's going on, all the internet traffic that's going on. And you see right now, of course, there's a lot of stuff talking to Twitch and a lot of the special stuff going on here that is just to do with broadcasting. But if I go, like, for instance, Torch Fiend, you can see here, it just went and got the price. It got the price and it got the image. Now I want it to have the image because that allows me to make sure that it got the right card really quickly and easily. But with the price, I don't care about what the price is. And so what I can see here is I can see, so I told it to go to Alter Reality Games. I have no idea who that is, but it tried to go to Alter Reality Games to get the price. And so what it did is it sent a request to Alter Reality Games. It said, wait, let me expand this here. It said, I need DB Price Rails 2, deckbuilder.com/price/alterrealitygames/244702. And 244702 happens to be what's called the multiverse ID for this card. And that's a thing that's actually from Wizards of the Coast. So if you go into Gatherer, you'll so if you go into Gatherer, you can if I go to 244 blah 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 244702, you can see 244702 is the Torch Fiend in Gatherer. So basically, all CardCam is doing is whenever it finds a card, it sends a request to Alter Reality Games in this case, because I told it to go check out Alter Reality Games for a card with that number. So all I have to do is on this computer, all I have to do is change what's called the hosts file on this computer, which is basically how the computer decides where to send requests. So I can adjust the host file on this computer, which you can see here, and I can say if it tries to go to dbpricerails2.deckbuilder.com, instead of sending it where it should be sending it, which is the deck builder and stuff, all you have to do is send it to 127.0.0.1, which is the local computer. That's just a standard convention. So what it's doing is what the CardCam thinks it's doing is going to get a price for this thing, for this card. What it's actually doing is sending a request to this computer for that address. And so on this computer, I have a little web server running that waits for requests for that address and redirects them to a little PHP program that I wrote, because PHP is the software, is the language I know. I mean, it could be any language. You know, you could be doing it in Python or Perl whatever. You could even have like a node server running and do it in JavaScript if you really wanted to. But PHP is what I know, and Apache is easy. So yeah, what I'm doing is what I'm doing actually is technically what's called a man-in-the-middle attack. When I'm intercepting the information. If this was like your bank account information, this would be real bad. You can imagine that if somebody had this going and was intercepting your stuff, you know, if you're on Wi-Fi in a coffee shop, somebody could actually be doing this if it wasn't for all the encryption and stuff that's going on. So anyway, yes, now we can have all arguments about programming languages. The reason why that I'm doing it in PHP is because PHP is what I know. The Loading Ready Run website is written in PHP, by the way, which I don't think is that big of a surprise to anybody. So now I'm redirecting it to local. So now, now we get into the second part of this. So I've got it redirecting to a local, to the local computer, and now so I can do whatever I want with that connection. Now I've got to pass that information into XSplit. Now, unfortunately, XSplit is a little bit. I guess it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but just to transferring information in and out of XSplit can be a little bit difficult, just because that's not a common use case. And the plugin interface for XSplit is still kind of in development still. It's possible they'll build APIs for that in the future. So what you can do is what I decided to do. So there's a number of ways that you could do this. What I decided to do is the easiest way that I could think of to set up this kind of information where, so you could have like plugins in XSplit are written in HTML and JavaScript, and there's a JavaScript API, and so you could have your plugin pulling a file or something, continually asking for new information, or pulling a PHP document file, or going to a website over and over again to see if it could find information. But I wanted to get that the sort of what's called push notification of when a thing has changed, which is a relatively new concept in the world of HTML, using what's called WebSockets. And to tell you the truth, this is an area where I'm a little bit I don't have a lot of experience personally. I primarily do web development. Of sort of what it called sort of traditional web development, I guess, not sort of web, not really rich web apps. Dan 92299. Wait, no, Dan 9299. Wow. Okay, thank you for subscribing, Dan 9299. And so in order to make WebSockets work, there's a bunch of stuff you need. But essentially, you have to have like it's basically a server that you can send stuff to, and then the server sends it along to something else. And then, so it's what's called sort of a publish and subscribe mode, where you can have a bunch of web pages that are subscribed to a particular stream of information, and then stuff can publish to it. So I can have a website that is, I can have a page that is subscribed to a particular WebSocket, and then I can have and then I can have as many other places that I want, that when they publish something to that WebSocket, and as soon as it publishes it to it, all the things that have subscribed to it get a notification and get an update. And Zagrog, thank you for subscribing for 10 months in a row. And by the way, that's how the notifier works. Lurbot, the system behind Lurbot actually does operates a subscription, a WebSocket server, and Lurbot and XSplits, as I've set up a plugin that subscribes to that one, and so we're notified whenever a new subscriber comes in. So that's how that works. So I want to do a similar thing, but I was running into problems with setting up the actual WebSocket server in the simplest way possible, because I didn't want to spend like a whole bunch of time on the actual like technical how to set up a WebSocket server, and they can be a little bit tricky. So so what I decided to do is I'm actually using PubNub, which is a service that does the WebSocket stuff for you, basically. And you may remember that name because it's the system that we actually use for Desert Bus. It's how we keep the total always updated in Desert Bus. And so for the purposes of PubNub, who are used to having, something like Desert Bus where you have information being updated and then like, a couple thousand people all looking at that web page, and all getting updates. So you have, thousands of updates going out every second. For the purposes of that, we're sending like one update every couple minutes. So it's like ridiculously simple. It's a ridiculously low effort thing for PubNub to do. And in fact, it can be done with no problems on like the free PubNub account, because that's designed for what is essentially this sort of like single user development environment, what we're doing here. So that's a long way of saying what happens is I have when that signal comes from CardCam and it asks for a price, I intercept that, and I've got let me just pull this up here, and I've got a script here that goes through, that grabs this is just loading the PubNub libraries, and it takes that information. So I have a htaccess file that just redirects it to this script. This script takes that information, and then it sends. Then it sends. It publishes an address, which is the gatherer thing for that card. So it's gatherer with the multiverse ID, the multiverse ID from the thing, and then end type is card. So this just happens to be the format that URLs are in for the gatherer setup. And so it publishes out this address. And I have a few just like, these are just debug things just to make sure it's doing the right stuff. So, and then I have the actual plugin, which is the thing in XSplit, which is right here, which subscribes to that server, and it says whenever there is a new message that comes in, a new XSplit image message, it shows it. In this case, it displays it in. It sets the source of this image to the address of the image. So that's the basic idea. And the nice thing about this is like it's not actually, it just takes the source. It takes the source of the image. It takes the thing from PubNub that's the source as the source of an image. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like a magic card that I'm sending to it. I could send any image, and that image would show up here. And so, the moment you've all been waiting for. Oh, that's a good point. I suppose I should put my webcam on the other side. If only I was writing in a right-to-left language. I feel like that would probably complicate stuff even more. Okay, so I'm on the other side here. This is just a little bit of CSS display information stuff just to make the cards show up nicely. Okay, so the moment you've all been waiting for. So live right now in this XSplit thing, I'm going to load in. I'm going to load in this view, which is just a plugin in, which is just an XSplit plugin. Which, as you can see here, an XSplit plugin is just an HTML page. So let's see if this works. Boop. All right. It is right here. You can't see it, but trust me, it's there. And the reason why you can't see it is that there's nothing currently displaying in it. So in order to get something to display in it, I just need to send a card. So let's see if this works. Boom. Nephalia sea kite. So it's a very, very long. So in order to make that work, it recognized the card. It sent it asked alternate reality games for the price of that card. I intercepted that. I sent that price in, or I sent the multiverse ID information, or I grabbed the multiverse ID information from that, sent the published it to PubNub, and then this thing grabbed it from PubNub and saw there was a change, and it did it. And that's how you end up with a system that can recognize cards. Now, the wrinkle to this, which I'm not going to get into because I can't really demonstrate it. The small wrinkle is that in order to make it actually work really easily or work really nicely in the game. Now, if you notice, in the game we had it set up so that there was like the so that there's the table, and if people just put the card in the center, it activated, right? So in order to do that, it required a little bit of complicated stuff with making sure that, because we have that, making sure that overhead camera shot was available in XSplit as well as in this software here, the CardCam, so that CardCam could take that overhead shot and grab just the card part of it and make sure that it's looking at the right part of the overhead camera shot, so it's just getting that center aspect, so it isn't activating like when people just put their cards down on the table. It's only activating right in the middle. So that aspect of it was a little bit complicated, but that's more actual sort of, I guess, logistical stuff. But what's really neat about this is sort of a slightly unexpected benefit. So the reason why I did the whole thing with PubNub primarily was just because I didn't want to have to deal with setting up my own WebSocket server. And PubNub has a really simple API that you can just tie into, and they've got libraries for basically every programming language under the sun. And so it just made it really easily. What made it really easy. But the slightly unexpected advantage is that because this is because it's actually sending the it's sending the signal for what card it's actually sending it over the internet. It means that the recognition system doesn't actually have to be on the same system that XSplit is, right? Like I could be at home. If I put a card up to here and activate the recognition system, the stream will change the card. You know, if I wanted to troll people, for instance, or so. It's yeah, it's kind of fun. And I think the next, and one thing I think we'll actually probably be doing in the next stream is having the card recognizer on a different computer than on the main. Have the card recognizer on a different computer that's activating the mainstream, because as you might imagine, the card recognition system, in order to do it this fast, this accurately, and all the reading the camera, doing the database stuff, all this stuff, in order to do that quickly, it actually is a reasonably large, it takes a reasonably large processor power to do. It's nothing, nothing like totally, it doesn't like destroy the computer to do it. But when you combine that with the running XSplit, with running a few other little things that we have going on, especially when you have like when we're doing when we did the that game, when we were doing that pre-release game where we had like 3 different cameras all running at the same time, and XSplit is reading a bunch of stuff, and XSplit's outputting at 1080p, 30 frames a second. It's doing high quality H.264 encoding, or whatever, higher quality than normal H.264 encoding. It's going at 3500 kbps, which is the highest that Twitch can support, etc., etc., etc. We're trying to send it out as high quality as possible. The computer that was running the stream was kind of peaked on its processor for a lot of the stream, which seemed to be okay. I mean, I asked people in the chat a few times if they were noticing any frame drops or anything, and I was watching it, and it didn't seem to be dropping any frames and stuff, but it made me a little uncomfortable. So, considering we have other computers around with easy computing power, then I figured out I might as well do it. Dogma, this means if someone developed a better recognition system, you could just send the same type of URL request and reset the system, and we're just, yeah. So the system is not tied to CardCam really, except for the fact that I'm taking advantage of the way CardCam looks for the price of cards. So as long as whatever other card recognition system has some sort of signal that it sends out every time it finds a card, then I could tie into it in the same way. And, like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be a card recognition system for Magic. Any piece of software that's sending out a signal, you can intercept that signal in the same kind of way, which is pretty cool. The thing with it picking up, sometimes picks up different versions of the same art. I think that's a combination of just how the database in CardCam works. Like, they probably just don't bother having every version of it. And also probably the way Gatherer handles multiple versions of the same card, and like multiple arts of the same card in the same set. So what I mean, I would really like, it would be nice if there were, like I was saying, I'm not totally endorsing this CardCam program. It does this thing really, really well. Like, it's the card recognition software or system in CardCam in Deck Builder is really good, which is very cool. Unfortunately, it's kind of tied up in the UI that the actual software has is a little marginal. There's a lot of things that I would like that could be definitely improved by it. For one thing, just being able to move this recognition area around, resize the recognition area, zoom or pan the actual, like the input from the camera would be very useful. Being able to access the settings for the cameras would be useful. Like you can't, for instance, I can't use any of the like normal Blackmagic stuff that we use because in order to use the Blackmagic input card, you need to be able to set the Blackmagic input card and tell it what the input channel is, like what resolution the input is, and it doesn't actually allow me to access that configuration information just because it's very kind of bare bones. So there's stuff in here that would definitely be improved. Obviously, a whole ton of stuff could be reduced if there was just like an API built into CardCam. But yeah, I don't know. If I know, if somebody wanted to build a different, if there's somebody from CardCam sees this, or somebody from Deck Builder sees this, or if somebody wants to build their own card recognition stuff, I'd be very interested to see what you can come up with. And if you're Wizards of the Coast or Star City Games or something, and a system like this would be useful for your own coverage system, and these guys are putting thousands of dollars into their coverage. Maybe if you throw a couple $1,000s towards the guys making CardCam, they'll improve it and make it fancy. Roasted Gravy, as far as I know, CardCam does not work with any other trading card games. It is Magic only. I don't think there's any technical reason for that. It's just that's what they've got. You see the sets. It's got all the sets though. I was a little afraid it didn't have, and including all the it's got all the Commander's Arsenal stuff and Commander 2015 stuff. Plus, it's even got all the dual decks and the premium decks from the Vault. Portal. It's got the Masters Edition stuff from the online sets, Unhinged, Unglued. So it does have all the Magic stuff, but there's no technical reason why I couldn't have Yu-Gi-Oh and all that stuff. It just they don't have that in the database. The idea of actually replacing the database with my own, I was actually experimenting with a little bit, and it's sort of beyond my capabilities because it's some sort of binary format they have their database in. But I don't know. Maybe some of you out there are real smart and are able to put that together. So I'd be very curious if anybody can come up with, and of course, if you have ideas on how it could be set up better or all that kind of stuff, I'd be always interested to listen to what you say. Talk about it either on the forums or you can send me an email, paul@loadingreadyrun.com. Sajuke, maybe I'm missing the point implications, but is this system an improvement over having a physical dedicated card cam? I guess the big thing is that it's not, well, for one, so the two things are, one, it's like the card doesn't have to be left wherever it is. Like you don't have to put the card somewhere and then that's where it stays. You can go doink and then hold it up. The other advantage is that, the card image is pristine, right? You don't have to worry about, you have to worry about the lighting a little bit in terms of, if it's like that, it's not going to be able to recognize, maybe it can recognize it. But, if there's really nasty glare on the card, it can't really recognize it. But normally, it's pretty good at recognizing it in a lot more situations than, having a camera set up would be good for. And in actual fact, and if you look at some of the Pro Tour coverage that Wizards does when they really when they pull out all the stops for the Pro Tour, they they do have card images that show up, and they have like list. They do have, or sometimes anyway, they have card images and they've got listings of like what's in each person's hand. And how they do that is like a person stands behind each player with an iPad. They have a special iPad app that they can to quickly input. They've got like custom built iPad app where they can quickly input all the information. And so but obviously that's not the best. Obviously that requires a lot of manpower, right? Actually, if anybody knows what's kind of interesting, the thing that I started with, this MtG augmented scanner, is in a lot of ways it's better than for one thing. It doesn't have the restrictions in terms of the set. It works for any set, and it's almost as fast, and it's on a phone, which is really impressive. I believe how it's doing that is that they actually have some proprietary technology that they're talking, because they talk about, I think it's actually like talking to an online server for the actual information. They talk about this is like this thing. It's sort of a demo of this system they have called Next Reality. I don't know. So if the people who are making that, again, if the people who made this MtG augmented reality thing ever want to make a version of it for Windows or Mac, that would be even better, probably. Sounds really cool. Anyway. Sorry, I'm just looking at the Lord. Lord Bradford, at the moment, the idea of like having the whole board state would be kind of cool, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Also, at a certain point, if you have all the cards being recognized and the digital versions of them loaded in, like if you had some sophisticated motion tracking system so that the digital versions are like loaded into where they're supposed to be on the board and all this stuff, at a certain point you might as well just be playing Magic Online, right? Like if everything's all digitally put in. But anyway, I mean, the idea of the phone of running the app on a phone would be tricky, because then you'd have to. I mean, you could intercept it. You could intercept the signal still if you're on Wi-Fi. You'd have to have some sort of proxy thing on your router. Plus, just because of how the camera on the phone, you'd have to have like some sort of zoom lens on the camera. Otherwise, the phone would have to be like right there on the table. I don't know. I guess you could do something with that, but I don't think there's going to be anything doing that anytime soon. Anyway, so that is it for LRTech. It's just a brief thing. I thought you might enjoy that, and if people like this, if this is something that is popular, and I see in terms of viewership, it does seem to be more popular than normal streams, so that's kind of cool. Then yeah, I can talk about some more stuff in another time. We don't have a special setup. I don't have a scheduled time for this, but something that I've sort of come to realize over the last little while, especially, is that what we're doing with Loading Ready Run, with Loading Ready Live, I should say, is a little bit different than what a lot of people are doing with streaming. We just, because of who we are and what we want to do and the setup we have and what we have available to us and the kind of stuff we're trying to do, we're pushing some of this technology more than a lot of other people are. We're always experimenting with new different ways of doing stuff. We've got our AFK stuff, all the different overlays for different games, that we're experimenting with the AFK stuff, and we're going to be doing even more of that stuff in the new year. We have some ideas for new, different other things that should be really cool. So, so it's something that I thought would be kind of cool is, I guess in the sense that maybe some of you out there who are streamers are interested in getting some of this kind of stuff going on yourself, or maybe you're just interested in what's going on behind the scenes, or if you're interested in doing plugins for XSplit or stuff. That's something I'm personally very excited about right at the moment, is that XSplit's got a new plugin API about 3 months ago that's way better than it used to be. And it's in like really rapid development. Like the 1.0 version of the plugin API for XSplit came out literally like 2 weeks ago, where they finally like locked down the spec for it. And it's got some neat capabilities that I'm excited to get working on. So, anyway, Lurtech on Axehand and the overlay. If you just, those are definitely two things. Axehand is something, I don't know, maybe Ian and I can do that as a dual thing, because it really is, it is very much sort of a half and half operation. Neither side really works without the other. There's the Axehand system is built on there's a system in XSplit that records when transitions happen on the scenes, and then Ian has built a system that takes that data and takes that data and takes the raw video files and cuts them up and removes the commercials and stuff. So that's really cool too. Anyway, so I'm going to go offline now, and I will be back in a completely different form for things on my stream, which will be back to usual stuff. However, I have finished the last game I was doing on things on my stream, and so I believe I'm going to be playing. I was looking at different things that I could possibly play, and I think I'm going to be playing Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap. Why? Because I thought it would be cool. I was kind of hankering for playing a Zelda game, and that's supposed to be really good. I haven't played it before, but it's supposed to be similar to Link to the Past, which is obviously really good. And yeah, the only bad thing I've read about it, about Minish Cap, is that it's a little short. Like, it's really fun, but it's a little short. And I was like, for the purpose of the stream, it being short isn't that big a deal. So I'm going to be playing that. So I'm going to go offline for a few minutes, and then we'll be back with things on my stream. Thanks you, everybody, for watching.